What's going on, everybody? This is Biz from thecomeback.co. We're located at 398 Davis Avenue in Kearny, New Jersey. Thecomeback.co is just a creation kind of my own brain, I guess you can say. It's everything that I enjoyed as a kid and everything I enjoy now currently. At thecomeback.co, we curate vintage t-shirts, streetwear, sneakers, collectibles, things of that nature. We're mostly vintage t-shirts, so that's what we specialize in. Our first opening was in October, the last week in October. If you don't know, we're not open every day. We're by appointment only for the most part, but we do open to the public the last weekend of every month. Our current location at 398 Davis is our one and only location that we've ever had. It's our first location, and I hope we stay here for a while. I wanted to open a vintage store because I'm less of a hype guy and I'm more of like personal style guy, and I feel like sneakers has gone into this thing where it's a lot of hype behind it, whereas I feel vintage is more still on the low, especially in this area, and it's something that I could bring to this area. Honestly, the store, just me coming up with the store, honestly just kind of happened over time and natural progression. I started off a few years back selling at the flea markets. So I would sell at the Meadowlands Flea Market. I would have to wake up early in the morning, pack up a whole Tupperware full of stuff, lug it over to the flea market early in the morning, and I'm not an early guy, and start selling. So after doing that and seeing the success I had at the flea market, the wheels started turning, and I'm like, maybe I can do this with my own property and in my own space. Yeah, man, I mean, it's just a fun experience just to get out there and talk to people, and you never know who you run across. And don't focus on high-end things. Focus on your mids, focus on low, because when you're out there, you're going to want things like to sell for $5, $10. You know, when I was out there, how I would do it is I would have 5 racks. $5, $10, 15 and 20, and then a rack with things over 20. When thinking of a name, I wanted to think of a strong name that kind of like was related to vintage, right? And you know, you could fall down, you could get kicked down, but you're always gonna come back, right? Or at least that was my thing. Like, I can fall, but I'm always gonna stand up and come back. So I mean, that's kind of, once I kind of got that mentality into my head, that's where, you know, the name came from. And just the design of it, honestly, like I tell everybody, this is how my room would look if I was a kid again, you know, or if I was back right when I went to high school. This is what my room would look like, and that's kind of how I designed the store, piece by piece. I think the thing I love about vintage the most is just like kind of the wear the t-shirt gets. Anything that you make that's quality, and as it goes on through the years, it starts to develop its own character, its own quality. So I think that's what I love the most about vintage t-shirts, having things that are faded. Like, look at this t-shirt, it has holes in it, but I love it, you know, it fits the best. Yeah, so my biggest come up or pickup didn't come from the thrift store, it came from a garage sale. I picked this piece up right here. I kind of don't want to tell you what I got it for, but I'll tell you anyway, just so y'all know. I got this for 50 cents. Single stitch all around. I believe it's from 1990, what did we say? 1995. But I mean, when it comes to Grateful Deads, it doesn't get much better than this. And for 50 cents, that would be it. Yeah, so it's actually a really cool story. Me and my wife, we were away. She was pregnant. We were out in Pennsylvania and up around Lancaster, just relaxing for the weekend. We were driving by and we saw this garage sale. We initially weren't going to stop, but we made the last minute decision to stop, so we stopped. We went in and we found this in a pile of a bunch of other like dope t-shirts, but this by far was the best. And when he told me they were 50 cents a t-shirt, I almost couldn't contain myself. Yeah, one of the biggest struggles of working a full-time job as well as running a shop is just having that balance of work life. And I'm married with a son right now. He's only a year and 3 months, so just balancing all that together is kind of like one of the biggest struggles that I would have while doing those two things. But it's kind of that work-life balance and making sure everything gets the proper attention that it needs. It could get difficult at times and you have many challenges, but I mean, the only way to get over is just to persevere, open up your lines of communication and talk. The hardest part, or one of my hardest moments when opening up this business, was at the beginning when I was very new to all of this. I got the property, I built out the store, I built it how I want, and then I went to the town to get my business license, and they rejected me because I didn't meet the zoning restrictions. So I had to go and go back and forth with the town, fill out the proper paperwork, and get approved to open up the store. That kind of was one of my biggest difficulties. Working full-time, having a full 9 to 5 in the city, as well as running this shop, it's a hustle, it's a grind, it's a 24/7 grind. You just got to keep moving and keep working. When you're not sleeping, you got to work. Yeah, I mean, now sourcing my product is like harder than ever because it used to honestly just be me out there thrifting, finding things. I would do the occasional buyout, but I wouldn't really buy out so often because I never had the space for it. So it would just be for my first opening, pretty much everything that was there was like thrifted by me over the years that I've had for maybe like 2 or 3 years, saving in anticipation for opening the store. So, but right now I do thrift, but a majority of it comes from people and connections that I've made throughout the industry and that I know, who come in and know what I'm looking to buy things for, and they know that they can just unload these things to me and they'll get cash. Recently, I haven't been to any vintage conventions. I used to do a pop-up at one in New York City called Dead Stock Depot. They're actually all the way from Canada, and that's kind of where I got my feet wet with vintage conventions. Honestly, when I did my first convention, and just the love that I got, the appreciation that I got, and just people coming through and just telling me like how dope everything is, it honestly, I can say it was a big boost to my ego, if I can say that. It definitely gave me the drive to push and move forward with the store. The vintage community stands out to me because honestly, it's like where my passion is. Sneakers definitely would be my passion, but that's more of a personal passion for me. Vintage, I like buying things, and I like buying things and seeing them on other people. I like supplying them with something that not every other shop is going to supply them with, because I mean, to be honest, there's a million stores in this area that sell sneakers. There's not a lot that'll sell you a dope vintage t-shirt. So I think, in my opinion, the two biggest changes that I see in the vintage community right now from when I started would be like the value of some of these t-shirts and just the general knowledge that's out there. One, going back to the value, I've sold shirts for like $30 to $40 that probably now sell for $500. Marvel tees are out of this world. So I mean, the value of these vintage t-shirts are just going up and up. That's pretty insane. The other would be the amount of knowledge. When I first started in vintage, there were very few sites that gave out information on vintage t-shirts, and very few places that you could go to find information on vintage, anything vintage. Now it's just all over the place. You have all these shows, you have all these auctions, all these people that start lives just to talk about vintage. I think that's super dope, but those would definitely be the two biggest things I see changed in the community. In the next 5 years for the vintage community, I feel, it'll probably continue to go up in trend. these pieces, as they get older, they only get rarer, you know? As people start wearing vintage, the stock gets less and less, so you have less and less, so the value will go up. Will the demand be there? I don't know, you know? We'll see where... I think vintage depends a lot on where fashion goes. If fashion continues to go with, you know, recycled, you know, just... you know, being conscious of the impact on the environment. If it continues to go that way, vintage will continue to go. I think for the most part it's a good thing going on for the community, the virtual auctions. I love to see people out there hustling. COVID hit and it kind of put a stop to a lot of people's money, so you know they had to come up with a new revenue stream, so I commend people for that. You know, it's just putting out more knowledge. I mean, personally, I probably wouldn't do something like that because it's not my character, it's not in my lane, so I try to stay away from things that aren't in my lane and don't fit me personally as a person. Yeah, I mean, now sourcing my product is like harder than ever because it used to honestly just be me out there thrifting, finding things. I would do the occasional buyout, but I wouldn't really buy out so often because I never had the space for it. So it would just be for my first opening, pretty much everything that was there was like thrifted by me over the years that I've had for maybe like 2 or 3 years, saving in anticipation for opening the store. So, but right now I do thrift, but a majority of it comes from people and connections that I've made throughout the industry and that I know, who come in and know what I'm looking to buy things for, and they know that they can just unload these things to me and they'll get cash. For real, I'd be lying if I said I didn't look up to, you know, the guys over at Round 2. Like, I definitely think they came in and showed people a way to do this. But for the most part, the people that I look up to are the people within my circle, the other New Jersey and New York thrifters that are in the area that I've just come up with and that I've learned this game from. So those are the people that I look up to. They don't have any famous names, but, you know, that's where I go to. Honestly, my goals for the next 5 years, I mean, I can tell you in the end of this year, I want to be out of my 9 to 5. I want to be done with my 9 to 5, and I want this to be my full-time gig. I'm not sure if I immediately want to change it to a model where I'm open every day. I kind of like my model where we do a pop-up last weekend of every month. It makes it feel more exclusive, more exciting. People get excited to come here. So short-term goal, quit my 9 to 5, focus on this and other ventures I have outside of fashion and vintage t-shirts. The only advice that I could give to like someone looking to get into this business or looking to get into any form of like entrepreneurship is just to grind and just to hustle and just to work. Get better day by day. As long as you're better today than you were yesterday, you're making progress, and that's all that really counts. Yeah, guys, I hope you liked the interview. This is Biz from The Comeback again. We're at 398 Davis Ave, open to the public the last weekend of every month. We do take private appointments, so hit me on the Instagram if you need that. I just wanted to say thank you to Limited Supply for coming through, doing this dope interview. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to small businesses like myself that people reach out and show love, and I look forward to seeing you guys at the end of every month. Peace. I'm not gonna lie, I used to collect these action figures as a kid, but I would definitely rip them out the packaging and display them, you know. So all the ones I had as a kid were already open, but I actually found someone at a flea market. He had a ton of them, and I just went through. I got the idea in my head, these would look dope on my wall. I always wanted something covering this wall, so I'm like, yo, these action figures, if I could get them all up here, would look dope. And it looks like this guy has enough, so I made him a deal if I could load up bins, and you know. But yeah, I definitely had some of these as a kid, but these aren't my original figures.